Good morning, taste buds. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein. Whether you need to get on your tippy toes to reach your freezer or you need to bend over to root through your freezer drawer, today I've got food that's made to fill it. So freeze and stay where you are. You are on SoFlo Taste and it starts now. How fun is that? Welcome all to SoFlo Taste. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein here in the Goya kitchen at JA World in Coconut Creek. What's in your freezer? Is it full of foodstuffs rolled up in foil or zip-top bags? Worse yet, the same clear film wrapping that it came in right from the grocery store? So today I thought it would be fun to give you recipes that are perfect for the freezer and more importantly, so good, you'll not only give them a freezer-worthy wrap, but you may get a Sharpie out and write on it and say what it is and the date. So let's get freezing. The first thing is a lasagna, but I'm not gonna give you a good old simple lasagna. I'm gonna give you something a little more fun to make. I've got some crumbled sausage here in this pan. It's just very simple Italian sausage. We got a Delaware chicken farm and seafood market. Be sure to visit my friends over there. You'll see that they have every kind of protein, including some you've never thought of. They're on the corner of 441 and Sterling. Just visit them at delawarechicken.com to get some ideas or call them at 954-983-6831. Just go there, take it all in. It's fabulous. They are charming, they are wonderful, and they will give you so many great ideas when you go there. And make sure you tell them Michelle sent you. All right, so crumbled up sausage, just cooked, not even in any added oil, just in its own fat. Now, what do I have in my freezer? Tomato sauce. I always have tomato sauce in my freezer. Buy painter's tape, you know that blue tape? And across any kind of a plastic container, usually the ones you get in takeout Chinese food, on those plastic containers, we call them quart containers, I say what it is and when I made it. Very simply put. So I have tons of tomato sauce that I make a bunch of chicken stock, stick them in my freezer, and then days like today, when I want to actually use it, I pull my tomato sauce out and I warm it. So here, I'm going to be adding my tomato sauce to the sausage. So mix that up real good. And I know this is a freezer day, but just so you know, to get ahead, I actually cook pasta. This is a pound of pasta, and I toss it in oil once it's cooked and cooled in some ice water. Toss it in oil, stick it in a little zip top bag. You can keep it like this in your fridge, not freezer, for a good solid 5 days, and you can make different pasta sauces. So this is a great thing to do. So I am just gonna throw, and this is kind of like penne rigate, I think is the name of this shape. I don't know if we'll be using all of it today. Let's see. Yeah, maybe a little more. All right. So we're gonna mix this up really good. And what I'm making is a ziti or penne lasagna. It's not really a lasagna, it's kind of a free form, but it has every bit of deliciousness that my lasagna has. Over here I'm gonna mix some ricotta cheese, which is what this is, with some black pepper. Give it some flavor, right? Black pepper, some kosher salt, and some heavy cream to loosen it up a little bit. And I love to do this. It's not only a little more delicious and rich, but it also is easier to put on evenly onto your little penne lasagna that we're making today. All right, aside from this, I also have some freshly grated Parmesan. You can also use pecorino if you'd rather. And I have some fresh grated mozzarella cheese over there. So let's start layering. The first layer I'm actually gonna add is this ricotta cream mixture. Gonna put some down first. Now you can make this and freeze it, or you can make this and bake it. It's up to you. Let's add our pasta with our tomato sauce and our sausage right in here. Now, if you don't want to make your own tomato sauce and you don't have the time to do it, pick your favorite tomato sauce from the grocery store. We're good with that. No one needs to know either. All right, make sure that's pressed down. Now I'm going to add some fresh parm over the top. I'm going to go ahead and layer this up so that there are 3 layers of each. We're going to top it with the fresh grated mozzarella cheese, and then just a quick tip. You're gonna spray foil with some cooking spray, and this will go down onto the penne lasagna to bake. But if you wanted to freeze it, go ahead and wrap it up in a nice amount of plastic wrap, and for goodness sakes, label it, okay? Come right back. I got more freeze-fair recipes after the break. See you in a minute. Here's the lucky winner of our Goya Seasonings Greetings $500 gift card giveaway. She's Maria de Los Angeles, alumna of Homestead. Congratulations, Maria, and thank you to all who entered. And remember, if it's Goya, it has to be good.
There's still more from the Goya Kitchen at J.A. World and Michelle.
After the food, it's SoFlo Home Project, next on Local 10.
Welcome back to SoFlo Taste, and of course our show all about foods that really freeze well. So I'm going to teach you a really quick soup that I love. It's made with this beautiful gelatinous chicken stock. So this is another thing. I told you that I keep tomato sauce in my freezer. So this is a mainstay. This is always in my freezer. So I've taught you before how to make chicken stock. So you just scan this quick response code and you'll be whisked off to the SoFlo Shows page. So you can find this chicken stock recipe and all the recipes, of course, but it's really just perfect. It's nice and simple, and it's perfectly gelatinous, which is just so good for you and your family, and yummy. All right, so I'm gonna start off to make this soup by adding little tiny diced onion, a little bit bigger dice of carrot, not a perfect dice, but you know, just kind of uniform. I love big pieces of carrot in my soup. That's one of my favorite things to find when I'm having chicken soup is big chunks of carrot. And then again, smaller pieces of celery. Once they soften a little bit, go ahead and add some minced garlic. Now, if you want, you can add a little Parmesan rind, which is right from here, to your chicken broth, or it can just be plain old chicken broth. It's up to you. Parmesan is really delicious in this soup. It gives it just a lovely flavor. It enhances it quite a bit, but you can go nice and simple if you want to. I'm going to add a heavy pinch of red crushed chili flake. And I'm going to add some peeled and chopped fresh tomatoes. These have been seeded. Now I'm cooking all of this in good olive oil, like an everyday good olive oil, because I always want flavor from pretty much everywhere. So I have my really yummy chicken stock in here warming up so that we don't shock the vegetables into submission. We keep on cooking them with the heat of the chicken broth and the heat that I have under the vegetables. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to add a can of chickpeas. I usually have beans that are cooked sitting in my freezer as well, and I keep them in a little broth. But every once in a while, I either run out or I'm just not in the mood, so I go ahead and open up a can of beans. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Just drain them, rinse them. I love canned beans, so these are my drained, rinsed chickpeas. Now I'm just going to go ahead and start adding this warm broth. Okay. And then to finish, I've got baby spinach, which we can start adding now because all this is good and hot. And you'd be surprised how much you have to add in because it really kind of disintegrates. Fresh herbs are really important. You know, you've got the canned beans, you've got the frozen stock. Let's add something that will just bring some life into this, right? So we've got some fresh thyme, some fresh rosemary, and some fresh sage. So let's do that's about a teaspoon, no, that's a good tablespoon of rosemary, about 4 sprigs of thyme, and 1 stem of sage leaves. And let's just chop all that together. So this is a soup that you can have in the summer and you can have it in the winter. You can change the chickpeas to beans. You could put pasta in it for those of you that love pasta, or rice in it as well as a filler. You can do with it as you wish. You can put parsley instead of sage. And this can be in your freezer, and I would freeze it in smaller 2-cup size pint containers, they're called, or any kind of a smaller sealable container. Label it, date it, and stick it in your freezer, and anytime you're just not in the mood to make something, pull it out. It's beautifully healthy, it's delicious, and it's good for any time. You could probably get your kids to eat it too if you fill it with stuff that they love. And I think we're about done. That was a really quick one, right? I mean, it was very simple. All the veggies are nice and tender, but not too mushy. So let's get ahead and serve it. All the spinach is beautiful because it was fresh, so it's just beautifully cooked. If you want, you don't even have to cook it with the spinach. You can warm it with the spinach. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of salt and pepper right over the top. You can even give it, you know what, I'm going to use my really good olive oil down here for a little finish. And finally, just a little shot of grated Parmesan. So this is beautiful today, it's beautiful in a couple months, and it's even more beautiful in your freezer when you're starving and you pull it out and you warm it up and you have something homemade and delicious that makes you feel good and it's good for your soul. Come right back for another recipe. SoFlo Taste will return right after this. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste and my freezer-friendly foods. This recipe is one that I've really always wanted to do, to put in my freezer. They are pierogies, and they're delicious. Now, pierogies can be filled with all kinds of different filling. I decided to go at a little traditional today, and I'm going to teach you actually how to make the dough. It's so easy. We made it without eggs to make it even more easy and kind of pliable and simple to use. So all I have in this mixing bowl is a little bit of flour and salt. So I'm allowing water and butter to simmer, which it has. I'll take it off of there and pour it in here. And using a spatula, just kind of start mixing it. And once everything is really nice and wet, go ahead and turn on your mixer with a dough hook and let that go. I would start off kind of on a lower speed and then pick it up. And that's going to take you a good 5 minutes because you really want to work the dough. I mean, there's nothing in here but a little bit of fat, water, salt, and flour, right? So you need to work that dough a bit. And it's really an elasticy dough. It's lovely. So once the dough is made, we actually separated them into a couple of separate doughs and we wrapped them in plastic wrap. They do dry out rather quickly, so whatever you're doing with the dough, you always want to keep it kind of under cover. So this is a little bit, has a dampness to it, and you just want to keep it covered to make sure that it stays nice and humid. So what you do is you roll out the dough like I just did, and this is about 1/4 inch thick. We're going to make the filling real quickly. I have some very simply made mashed potatoes that have a little bit of butter in them. And I'm just going to add some cottage cheese, or you can add farmer's cheese if you'd rather. I'm going to add half of these caramelized onions because the rest of them I'm going to add at the end, like Mom used to when she used to actually cook the pierogies. Go ahead and add some salt to this. If you want to add pepper, you can. And mix this up until everything is really well combined. Okay, once it's well combined, we like to use this in a piping bag. It just makes life easier, but if you'd rather just use a spoon, it's all good. I have a very small mold for my pierogies, but it's up to you if you want to make them bigger, smaller. The smaller you go, the harder it is to really get a perfect amount of filling. So we just put it all into a very simple piping bag. It works really great. So let's go ahead and use a cutter to cut little rounds of dough. And you really can get quite a lot of pierogies into one dough. Let's lift this out. Just adding a little bit of filling into it. Go ahead and use your finger to put a little bit of egg wash. You only have to put it around about half of it. And you can do one of two things. Obviously, not everybody's going to have these at home, so you can really just close them with your fingers like so. And you can either use a fork to seal them, you can pinch them as if you were making a pie, just by squeezing them together like so with two of your thumbs. And that makes a lovely little shape. Or let's make one using this little contraption. Let's go ahead and egg wash one side again. Place it in here. I don't even know why I bought this. I'm not really sure. I think I was making little empanadas one day. Press hard, and boy, is that easy. And there you go. So once you put these on your parchment paper, on your sheet pan, make sure little by little you're covering it with that damp cloth that I told you about. All right, so let's just say we have those in our freezer, right? And I just pulled this pan out of the freezer. And what's great is you can actually freeze these in smaller increments so that you just pull out exactly what you need. Make sure you date it and you label it so that everybody knows they're pulling out pierogies from the freezer. You might even want to write down what the filling is, because you might make different fillings, like with mushrooms or spinach or different things. So I'm going to teach you my favorite way of cooking a pierogi. Some people just boil it and add melted butter. I'm going to boil it and saute it. All right, so because it's fresh dough, it doesn't need very long to cook. So let's put, I don't know, 8 to 10 pierogi in the boiling water all at the same time. Okay, at the same time I'm going to go ahead and heat up a pan with a little bit of oil and a little bit of butter. And get ready for my pierogies to go straight from the water into the pan. Make sure you have, well, this is called a spider. Make sure you have one nearby, because this is great for scooping up out of the water and putting it into whatever you have. Don't forget, I've got these onions that I'm going to finish the pierogies with. So it's been about a minute. It looks like the pierogies are floating. I'm going to go ahead and drain them as quickly as I can and place them right into the oil and butter. Go ahead and season with a little salt, a little bit of pepper. Let's let them caramelize for just a minute. We're going to add our onions in a second. They're going to get a little bit of golden color. Look at them. They're starting to caramelize. They're looking just beautiful. It might look a little complicated, but it's not. It's so simple to make. The doughs can be made up to 3-4 days ahead of time. The filling can be made, again, 3-4 days ahead of time. And then you can freeze these puppies, and it's just delicious. So I'm going to add those onions. Shut off the heat. These have caramelized really quickly. All right, come right back. Let's see how these turn out. See you in a second. Back to SoFlo Taste right after this. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste and our things that freeze beautifully. Now check out our pierogies. They're caramelized, they're beautiful, and they're easy and they're fun to make with the family. So thanks for coming along with me today. I hope I've given you some good recipes to put in your freezer, but more importantly, to take out of your freezer. And just think how ready you'll be when your house loses power someday. Next week, I'll be making recipes that are shrimply irresistible. Yep, it's an entire SoFlo Taste dedicated to the shrimp. So join me for Shrimply the Best on the next SoFlo Taste. Now let's check in with our talented friend, Elena Capra, host of SoFlo Home Project. Hey Elena, what are you doing next on SoFlo Home Project?
Hi Michelle, good morning. So today we hope to inspire everyone to update their homes. Coming up on SoFlo Home Project, we tour a beautiful home that's a great example of how traditional architecture meets modern design. You won't want to miss this amazing home tour.
Well, thank you, ma'am. So Taste Buds, thanks for spending another morning with me. I love sharing my recipes with you. I'll see you next week. Goodbye and good taste. Deep freeze.